topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello, and welcome to It's Your Voice, Enriching Conversations in Diversity. My name is Bahia Yackzan. I am a core alignment coach, an emotional wisdom training specialist, and a diversity educator. I've learned so much by being able to live in different parts of the world, in different parts of this country, in the US, and I always learn by listening to different perspectives. It contributed to my interest in designing trainings to help people who want to learn how to step out of patterns of thinking that have brought us stereotypes that we've internalized, and I've created programs. If you're interested in my programs about how to undo, whether it's biases or other patterns of thinking you want to shift out of, my coach training is extremely effective for that, as well as the diversity education programs. And if you're interested in looking at any of those offerings I have, you can go to my website, which is knowwhatyouvantcoaching.wordpress.com. Today, I'm very excited to have a guest who I haven't seen for many years, an old friend from when I lived in Maine, where I also learned a great deal, including about some of my own stereotypes. And Joe's in real estate. He's a real estate broker and a real estate appraiser, and he got his license quite a few years ago. And he is a avid salmon fisherman and knows the woods, and knows how to navigate in nature in a way that's really admirable. And I was able to have an incredible relationship with nature when I lived in Maine as well. So it's really nice to be back in touch with someone who's right there all the time. Joe Robbins, thank you so much.
Hi, Bahia.
Thanks for joining me today.
Good to see you.
So happy to see you, and I appreciate your coming on. And I feel there's so many different ways to look at diversity and how it impacts us and what it means to different people. And I've been so eager to talk, first of all, because you're back east and it's October, I've been missing the weather changes. Can you tell us, what's the weather right now?
The weather is very crisp in the morning and cool all day long, 50s and 60s. Very comfortable. Clear skies, very nice.
Wow.
Perfect October weather.
Wow. And what color are the leaves? Are the leaves turning?
They're late. Here, we're on the coast near Canada, and they really haven't turned a lot yet. So I think it's peak way up in North Maine, but down here, peak is going to be the end of the month.
That's happened before, but is there a gradual delay in the cold weather coming in Maine?
Yeah, I think it gets warmer and warmer every year. I hunt birds, and October is usually when the leaves start dropping, especially the alders, and they're not going to drop this month. So it's going to be very difficult.
Because that's season. Usually their leaves have already dropped.
It's great for the birds.
Well,
and I miss them anyway. So they have it good both ways.
Well, that was my favorite kind of hunter was the hunt that were the hunters who missed.
Yeah, yeah, that's me.
But I will. That actually does bring me to a stereotype I used to have when I originally moved to Maine. I had a strong prejudice against hunting, and I was very vegetarian, partly because I had been living actually in Nepal for 3 years before I moved to Maine, and in that situation, there was a scarcity because I was working and living with people who had very little access to resources, including food and sources of protein. So I just didn't eat meat so that there
Hmm.
was more for families because I had a very strong health and I didn't need it. So I was just in the habit of not having meat when I moved to Maine. And I realized, wow, I've developed some attitudes about people who eat meat. I had to look at my own bias was really strong when like, what? What? You're going out to kill a deer? What the heck? But then I learned so much about how much that can be easier on the environment rather than going to a grocery store and buy packaged meat that came from a source that cut down the woods in the Amazon to grow cattle.
Yeah, but see, like last fall, my brother and I went bird hunting over in Columbia Falls, and we didn't get any birds, but a mile from his house, we got a roadkill deer. We
That's
didn't
your
run
brother.
it over, somebody else did, but we got the deer. So that was pretty good. That was a good hunting trip. Didn't waste any bullets either.
That's right. And like we'll talk about that, because roadkill, how like fresh does it have to be? Like I know like that happens. That happens. And
Well, we went out that same road an hour earlier, and there was no dead deer in the road. So it was fresh.
so you knew for sure. Plus you can tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't get run over the day before yesterday. It was an hour, within the hour.
And so what's the process? Like they still need to tag it, like to keep track, like to
We
keep
didn't
track.
have to do that. We called the game warden. He said, take it.
Well,
So
there.
that was easy.
Well, that was a nice hunting trip.
And the game warden's my brother's neighbor.
Don't say too much now.
It's all perfectly legal.
It's all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what you're doing.
Yes.
So how long does that like how much meat does that provide to
Oh,
your
I'd say total that deer was about 50 pounds of meat.
Hmm. So that'll last a while.
It wasn't a big one.
No. And when you hunt birds, what birds do you hunt?
Uh, Here we hunt woodcock, timberdoodles, and ruffed grouse, partridge. That's all I go for.
Yeah. And you used to have hunting dogs, or do you still have hunting?
I still do. As a matter of fact, it's funny you should ask.
Are we going to see a dog? I'm sorry for people who are listening on the radio that you can't see this adorable puppy. Oh my gosh. What kind of dog is that?
German short hair, 9 weeks old.
Wow. Looks like a bird dog.
She is.
Adorable.
She's a good girl.
So do you train them or
Well, the last bunch I had a female short hair, and she had a litter of 7 pups, and I kept the runt, which was a female. But all those puppies were natural pointers. I didn't have to train them.
Hmm.
So that was good. But every other dog I've ever had before that litter was dogs that I had to train to point.
wow, how do you do that?
Well, you have to have a fly rod, and I have plenty of those. And you have to have a woodcock wing or a partridge wing.
Hmm.
And you make the puppy chase it around and around. You never let them catch it. And after a while, they'll start stalking it, and they'll stop, and they'll tense up and pounce. But what you train them to do is to hold that pounce before they jump, and
Wow.
that teaches them how to point. And you get them to hold that pounce,
Oh.
and so when they smell a bird, they learn to smell the birds that they point. You walk in ahead of the dog and flush the bird, and then shoot at it and miss like I do.
That sounds like a lot of
But it's
fun.
fun. It's fun.
It is, isn't it? Like, it's great because you're out in the
It's
woods.
fun. Yeah, it's great.
Do you ever sit in a deer stand in a tree for hours not moving?
I don't like to do that. I like to walk through the woods.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to be still, especially.
Usually, if I sit down and kind of wait, I fall asleep. And that's fun too.
I'm sure you're not alone. Well, I'm curious, can you tell us about the woods there, the diversity of trees, or sections where there maybe isn't diverse trees, but what are you mentioned.
In our area of Maine, it's mostly evergreen trees,
Mm-hmm,
fir, spruce, and pine. There is
mm-hmm,
hardwood, but not a lot of it.
mm-hmm.
Can I tell a little story?
Absolutely.
I have a remote camp on Machias River,
Mm-hmm.
and one January I decided to walk into the camp, and they had cut wood there, and I couldn't find the path to my camp, and I had my dog with me, and we walked for quite a while, and I walked long enough so I should have been at the river, but I wasn't.
Hmm.
And it started snowing, great big flakes, no noise at all, perfect silence.
Hmm.
And the dog came back to me, and she had her tail between her legs. And I saw this, you know this story. I saw this like 10-foot wide laser beam go from the ground into the sky.
Oh, yes.
And I said, well, I don't want to meet whoever made that, so I'm leaving. And I went home. And the next week, I went in earlier and I found the path. And some friends came with me, and one of them was Bahia. And she had some kind of Chinese fortune-telling book called I Ching or I Ching.
Yes.
Well, how did you pronounce it?
I think someone told me to call it I Ching.
I Ching. So the process was I had to think of a question, then I had to flip some coins, pennies, heads or tails or whatever, and she kind of reads the code of these heads and tails pennies, and that directs her to a page in the book. And she went to page 52.
Mm.
And it said, a fire that goes to the heavens.
Yeah.
I said, God damn, she works.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah. And do you want to share why that's bringing back some sadness?
It was the good times, the best of times.
Yeah.
I'll get over it.
Yeah. I know it felt like someone was like sending some light to you, and the image from that book matched the experience you had just had.
So the book worked.
Yes, I totally remember that, and I think that page, I think it's called Fellowship of Men, which was even more like striking, matching the experience you're having and the loss that you had experienced before, and why that meant so much to you.
So I still don't really know if it was space aliens or not. Could have been.
Or someone from heaven.
Maybe that's how Bigfoot gets down here.
Thanks for that story. I appreciate that memory too.
Fun. We had fun.
We did.
Still
Oh my
do.
gosh. You and you were so good and still are so good to my children who are now young adults.
Yes.
And tell us a fishing story. I still want to I was going to say learn how to fly fish. I'd like to pretend like I know a little bit about fly fishing, but I don't know anything compared to my kids.
Wow. It's a lot of fun. It's you learn to tie flies, flies that sink, flies that float, flies that look like bugs, flies that don't look like any bug. And the fun part of it is if you catch a fish on one that you have tied, that's great. And I think the last time your son Hattie and Winnie were here, they both tied flies. Whether they caught anything with them, I don't know. But I know they tied them.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
that was fun. That was fun. But there's a lot of other things to do with fly fishing, and it can get really expensive and it can be fairly inexpensive depending on the equipment you buy. But a good reel, a good line, and a good rod, you can get for $70 or less, and you can spend up to $3,000 or $4,000 for the same stuff. But there's a big long learning process of learning how to cast, learning not to hook the bushes behind you and lose your flies.
That's challenging.
How to get the fish I fish for is Atlantic salmon, and these fish, when they come into the freshwater rivers, they don't eat. So how do you get a fish that doesn't eat to take the fly? My stepfather was a avid salmon fisherman. He said he always thought it was similar to, and this is before we had returnable bottles in Maine. If you were walking down the side of the road and you saw a can, some people kick it, some people don't kick it. And that's what he thought salmon did with a fly. Some of them take it, most of them don't. And there's other secrets to learn in the process. As far as salmon's concerned, you have to learn where they are, when they're going to be there, when the competition fishermen are going to be there, and how you're going to beat them. And if you get good, you do beat them. But some of the other secrets, like we usually use a leader, monofilament leader that's 10 pounds or less, 10-pound test. And the way you hold a fly rod when you're playing a big fish, and these fish were anywhere from 10 pounds on up to 20 pounds, but the average was 10 or 12 pounds. And if you hold your fly rod while you're playing these fish, if you hold the rod down and point it towards them, the poundage on that leader increases and increases. If you hold the rod vertically, they can't put more than 1 pound of pressure on it. Even if it's a 200-pound fish, they can't put more than 1 pound of pressure. So if you know how to hold the rod, you're not going to lose the fish because the line breaks. And things like that you learn through the years. There's other things too. These are small rivers. There's a lot of logs and debris and things, rocks they can snag on. And sometimes when you hook one of these fish, they may go 200 or 300 yards up or down the river. and you have to know when it's the right time to go swimming. And if a lot of times, if you go swimming, you will get the fish. But the bag limits have changed through the years too. It used to be from April 1st to October 15th in Maine, you could keep 2 salmon a day every day.
Wow.
Then through the years, it was reduced to 1 fish per day, still from April 1st to October 15th. Then it went down to 10 a year total. Then it went to 5 a year total. Then it went to no kill. And then it went to no fishing. So in Maine, you can't fish for Atlantic salmon anymore. The diehards like me go to other countries. I still go to Canada. I've been going there for 40 years now. And I went to Russia for 10 years.
Wow. I didn't know you went to Russia for 10 years. Wow.
10 years. They have a lot of fish, but for all you Russian fans out there, the country's horrible.
Sad.
It's sad. Yeah, the first trip that I was going to go to Russia got canceled because the Russian mafia took over the salmon camp I was going to and kicked everybody out.
Wow.
And that was after communism went away and all the foreigners went in to show them how to do business. And once a business started making a profit, the Russians would either take it over or kill you, and then it was theirs. And it's still like that.
You stopped going.
Well, I stopped going because the trip is very difficult. And when you're an old fart like me, it hurts. But the place we went, the rules change, the owners change, and what you can do changes. It's above the Arctic Circle, but even there, way up above the Arctic Circle, if there's no clouds in the sky, we usually went around the first week of July. The temperatures get up in the 80s and 90s, and they have a lot of animals that they've never seen before that are moving north, like muskrats. They've never seen them up there till about, probably 2005. But they're there now, and there's more coming. So things are warming up there.
And what about, well, before I ask you about rivers in Maine, I was just going to ask you, when you go to Canada to fish, is it above the Arctic Circle?
No, it's close to Maine. It's
okay.
Probably an hour above Fredericton, which is not that far from Maine. It only takes, from Machias, it only takes about an hour to get, hour and a half, 2 hours to get to Fredericton.
Yeah.
Then where we fish is another hour. So it's from Machias, it's like a 4-hour trip. That's not bad.
No, it's not.
It's the same time to get to Portland from Machias.
It is, which is bringing back to me. Does it still feel like there's 2 Maines? Like
No matter where I go, if I'm headed south from Machias to Ellsworth is a long, long stretch. Everything after that seems to click right along, but just getting to Ellsworth is a hard pull.
I was going to ask.
The good thing is when I get to Ellsworth, they have an LL Bean outlet.
That's right. One year, my son wanted to be, for his Halloween costume, you're not going to believe this, he was the dot between the 2 L's of LL Bean. That was his Halloween costume. I think he was influenced by, driving through Ellsworth and seeing the L.
Yeah. It's a good company. They have a lot of good stuff, and they've really expanded in the last 20 years from a fairly small business to a multi-million worldwide business.
I wonder how environmentally minded their practices are. I don't even know how ecologically they're being. Maybe they've got some great things going on. I'll have to check it out.
I think they're pretty conscious about that, but they sell a bunch. They send out a bunch of magazines.
Yeah.
A bunch.
Trees.
Yeah.
Go digital.
Right.
I have a question. When does Washington County still have 5 Class A rivers? Are the rivers still clean and pristine in Washington County?
Yeah, we have the Machias River is the central part of the county, and then to the west there's the Pleasant River in Columbia Falls, and you'll like this one, guys. It's an Indian name, Narraguagas, in Cherryfield. Then to the east we have the East Machias River and the Denny's River, and they all have salmon in them still. Not a lot of numbers, but there's organizations like the Downeast Salmon Federation that are bringing them back slowly and steadily.
Yeah, and you've been like a volunteer and a board member of the Downeast Salmon Federation since.
Yeah, I was there when we started.
Yeah.
And that was started by the 3 or 4 salmon clubs that were in existence back then, but they're all gone now. But the Salmon Federation is still very healthy. We have 2 hatcheries, a lot of members. I think there's 11 or 13 staff members. We have a land trust, big land trust, and we're protecting the rivers and trying to get the salmon back. So it's fun. A lot of volunteers too.
Yeah, well, and I think y'all are now, I remember encouraging this in the past, working closely, is this right, with the tribes and tribal government about salmon protection?
Yeah, the Indians are very helpful. They're very conscious. And on other rivers too, like the Penobscot River is one of Maine's biggest rivers. They really have a big influence on what happens on that river. And they're starting to work on the Kennebec River, which at one time was one of the best salmon rivers in the world and could be again. And the Indians are helping there too.
I think.
But that one also needs a number of dams taken out before it's going to get good. And it's being worked on. The lawyers are getting very wealthy fighting this for each side.
So I think, are you working with the Passamaquoddy Nation and the Penobscot Nation? And I don't know if the Micmac or Maliseet are involved.
They're involved in Canada pretty big time.
That's great. I really like collaboration and including the indigenous people who took care of it long before our ancestors got here.
That's right. And what do you think they think about next Monday?
I don't know what next Monday is.
Columbus Day.
Oh, yeah. In California, we are at least recognizing indigenous nations and calling it Indigenous Day.
That's what it should be.
Is Maine not recognizing it as Indigenous Day yet?
Not to any extent that I've heard.
Okay, we have to keep working at it. I saw a question, which was, what are hatcheries? Well, what is a hatchery and what does it do? Great question. Thanks for asking.
We have one in Columbia Falls. That's the Pleasant River. And we have one in East Machias on the East Machias River. And we raise, we get the eggs from the federal salmon hatchery, and they have river-specific fish for each river. So we get eggs that we know are from this river or that river. Whoops, I just deleted myself. Are you still there?
No, you're still here. We hear you.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Ron.
we take the eggs and we put them in the hatchery, and we raise those fish from fry, which is a little tiny fish coming out of the egg, to the par size, which is just a couple of inches. And when they get to the par size, we stock them in the rivers. And it seems to really work. And the method is called the Peter Gray method. And Peter Gray was, he was from Scotland, on the River Tyne, Tyne, and they started using this method to bring back a river that was just about dead to recuperate, using the same method of raising par and stocking them in the river. And the last time I looked, for this year, they had 32,000 adults return. That's big. It's a big return. Wow.
And that's the time, that's in Scotland you were talking about, had the huge return?
Yeah.
Wow.
Scotland.
Wow. And you're hopeful for the rivers you're stocking now in Maine?
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if Hattie could come catch salmon here? Huh? I fished in Scotland a couple of years ago. I went to, I did a kind of a round trip around Scotland, and we went up to Loch Ness, and the river that flows north out of Loch Ness is the Ness River, and it runs through the city of Inverness. And we stayed in Inverness, and the group I was with wanted to play golf and go look at the old forts and stuff. I found a place where I could buy a license, and I went salmon fishing, and it's beautiful. The river runs right through the city. They have a map of all the salmon pools, and you just walk up the river and start fishing down through. And when I got to the last pool, there were some locals sitting on a bench right beside a little shack, and they watched me, and I finally reeled in. They were club members, and we talked and talked. They opened up the building, gave me some tea.
What a nice connection, huh?
Oh, and my wife saw the Nessie in the lock.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Well, did she get any photos? Did she get any photos?
No, the film was bad.
Interesting. Oh well, maybe next time.
But then we went to. Have you ever ridden on a train?
Oh yeah, I love trains.
Well, see, I've never ever been on a train, and we took a train on a ride on a train. It was an old steam engine, kind of a tourist thing. But we went along the River Spey, Spey, which is a famous salmon river, and I was just drooling, looking at the fishermen down on this river as we're choo-chooing along. And it was July, but all the mountains still had snow on them. Big mountains, too. Then we ended up on the east coast in a town called Pitlochry. And again, the group I was with went shopping or playing golf, and I tried to get a fishing license and was not successful. And I could look down the river and see salmon jumping everywhere.
Wow.
So that was bad.
That was tough.
I'm still alive. I survived.
Well, that's so cool how you connected with the local fishermen in the previous place you mentioned, because that means so much when someone opens up to a stranger and you just relate to what you have in common, the common interest.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. The other fun thing about each one of these little rivers where I live is they all have, most of them have one central pool that everybody goes to. And like on the Narraguagus, it's the cable pool. In the East Machias, it's the mill pool. On the Denny's River, it's Charlie's Rips. And most of the people fish there. The ones that do fish there are afraid to leave, because if they leave, they're not going to catch the fish. And all these rivers have numerous nice pools above the famous pool and below the famous pool. Like in East Machias, it was the mill pool. I always say when I die, I'm going to go to the lower regions, because I always fished the lower regions, and I did quite well because I didn't have to fish that mill pool. But the other thing about the mill pool was the competition. You either fished the roadside or the park side, and you had to rotate. Somebody would go down through the pool, and then the next person, and the next person, and the next person, all day long from daylight to dark.
Wow.
And it was funny because I could drive up to the roadside if there were people fishing the park side, and just by their body motion, I could tell where the fish was and what they were going to do to try to catch it before I did. Oh, it was just fun.
Well, you learned a lot observing, huh?
Oh, yes, yes.
And people were pretty honorable about the rotation system?
Yes. The ones that didn't know and tried to screw it up went swimming.
Temporarily.
They were usually thrown in the river.
I guess that's one way to communicate a message.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious also, because I know I'm kind of switching tracks now. I don't know why. I just started thinking about how winter's coming. And I know a lot of people, I know when I lived there, we would cut our own firewood and chop it. And we even had a horse and hauled it for, and of course that might sound stereotypical, but a lot of people actually did. And I don't know, it's been a while, but can you just share a little bit about it's just so different, right. From living in this temperate climate, like preparing for winter. Just give us a couple images of what are people doing to get ready for winter?
Well, like my brother has a farmhouse with a big barn, and he usually has a big garden, and he has wood out back that he harvests to burn in his wood stove. And he'll cut wood all summer long and drag it up with his tractor, then saw it up and leave it for a while. Then he has a wood splitter, he'll split it all up, and then he'll move it into his woodshed, and it's a lot of work.
It is a lot
of work, and keeps him in shape. And it's funny too, because we used to, the camp you went to do the I Ching, we used to split that wood with a axe or a splitting maul, and oops.
Probably Charlie.
Command, just a second. It's the vice president. Camilla, I want you to call back in an hour. I'm busy. I know it's important, but call me back in an hour. See you, Camilla. Bye. Excuse me for that. You still there?
You're very connected. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, she's got something going on. Where was I? Wood?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, at camp, using the axe or the splitting maul. With an axe, if you have like a 16-inch piece of wood or 20-inch that's maybe 8 inches around, you drive the axe into it and it sticks. The method is to lift the whole thing out and up and flip it around so the axe head hits on the stump you're using, and just that motion will split the wood. And Charlie learned that from his 100-year-old great aunt. And she still was splitting wood when she was 100, but she knew how to do it. She knew how to do it.
Wow. And if you,
Yeah.
I know if you try to split it before it's dry, you're wasting your time. And
We like
your muscle.
we like to do it in February, and when it's 10 below or 15 below, it just pops right up hot. I had some friends that bought a big set of summer camps that used to belong to MIT. It was a summer camp for their civil engineers, and they bought it and turned it into a resident camp for children. And before they opened the camp, they called me one night and said, "Joe, you're coming over for supper, right?" And I said, "Yep." And they said, "Can you bring some ice? We don't have any." I said, "Just take a pot, put some water in it, and put it outside. It'll be ice when I get there." And they said, "Oh."
The things you don't know.
That's right. So easy. We had fun, though, up at that camp I was talking about, the I Ching there. We had a sauna there, and we used it most of the year, all winter long. And back then, there was enough ice on the river so you could travel the river with snow sleds quite easily, or cross-country ski. Now,
Oh, yeah.
in recent years, there's not enough ice on the river to travel.
So you're definitely seeing the warming of the rivers.
Oh yeah, big time.
Big time. How about snow? Is decreasing?
Very little snow last year, Bahia. Very little. I think my driveway here at the office in Machias, they plowed twice, maybe. And my deck in Winthrop, I never shoveled it. Didn't have to.
That is very sad. Are people talking about it? Are people like going, what are we going to do? Or
I don't talk to people anymore because of the COVID.
Well, there you go.
It's great.
Well, I'll have to send you links to some previous and future shows. Having some people come in talking about what we can do for climate, to help the climate be resilient.
Well, I think electric cars are going to help here, but they got to do it everywhere. Because if you go to Russia, the first thing you'll notice when you step out of the airport is the stink from a country that doesn't know what a catalytic converter is.
I want to mention my very, very first guest on my show when it was radio only. His name Dr. Asante Kwabena Asante. He's a good friend, and he is a climate resilience engineer. And one of the things he pointed out to me on the show was when I was saying, well, what can we do? What can we do? I don't even, I recycle. And I actually want to have a show where we talk about like recycling. Exactly, because I think we can recycle incorrectly and then ends up at the landfill. But anyway, he said, just bring it up, talk to people, and it's amazing, right? What happens when two people have a conversation and somebody's idea will lead to something, and there'll be some kind of change. Everybody figures out something to do rather than nothing, because
Down here we call it, let's have a powwow.
Yeah, I wonder how that, I'm just wondering how, what that means to other people.
No, it means we talk.
Yeah. So what are you having for dinner tomorrow night with your brother, Charlie?
I can't tell you what I'm having for dinner, but I can tell you what I'm having for lunch. Lobster roll. Fun time. I said, Charles, do you have any hot dog rolls? No. You got any mayonnaise? Yep. I said, good. Get the mayonnaise out because I'm coming with lobster and we're going to have lobster rolls.
You guys are so close.
It'll be fun.
I know.
He has 2 adult German short hairs, so that'll be fun too. This
Yes,
baby.
yeah. Are they from the same litter?
No, his
Oh, you said adult.
one he got from the Ark dog shelter in Millbridge,
Oh, yeah.
and the other one his son got in Pennsylvania from some family that couldn't keep it, and so he has two.
That's great.
Yeah,
Well,
Nice.
sorry, go ahead.
they're nice dogs. Other than the one from Pennsylvania likes to eat everything. Everything.
Usually nice people help cultivate nice dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so nice.
I've had nice short hairs for 50 years now.
So I know we're gonna have to wrap up in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you about, did you ever lobster fish? Was that something?
I've gone with lobster fisherman. Yeah. I was the bait man.
Wow.
So you get a handful of stinky bait in a rubber glove and stuff it into a knit bag and hang it in the trap and throw the trap over and go to the next buoy and haul it up and throw out the conkles. They call them conkles. Actually, they're just big snails. Probably sell pretty big time in California restaurants, but and they throw most of the crabs away and keep the lobsters that are the right length and move on. It's fun.
And
it's hard work and it's fun.
It's not easy. Like getting up really early in the morning, going out when it's really cold.
Yeah.
And you have to wear mitts that sometimes you have to take off when you're pulling in the crates. That is really hard labor.
And the other thing they throw away is the sea urchins that go in the trap.
Oh.
So that's the first time I ever tried urchin roe, and that's the eggs inside the urchin, and it's usually some shade of orange color. And to me, it tasted fishy sweet, and I liked it.
So you think it's good?
Yeah, I wouldn't try to make a meal out of it though. But I love sushi.
Oh yeah, I've started to love it too.
I love sushi.
Well, we just have a couple minutes. So do you have any closing thoughts? Any kind of wrap up message or?
I just say to my friends in California, be prepared.
Period. Just be prepared.
Be prepared. That's the Boy Scouts marching song. Be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot on our hands here.
I know it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I miss Maine. I miss you. I miss Charlie, Gretchen, and everybody, all the families. Give my love to everybody.
Well, you should come once in a while too, you know.
I will. I'm going to show up. I think I'm going to be able to show up this summer, hopefully.
Bring that I Ching book.
I will. And Instagram, it's your voice. Thank you for putting that up. I want to thank Roxy, our sound engineer, who does so much behind the scenes. Thanks for making this all happen. And Dean Piper, our producer, who has been patiently helping me do the things I need to do to help this show happen too. And
I know what's going to happen tomorrow.
What's that?
People are going to come up to Bahia and say, do they really talk like that in Maine?
It's for real. Thanks again, Joe. I need to thank our listeners too. Thank you so much for being here, or watchers if you're watching. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. to listen or watch at w4cy.com.
And in Finland, Wednesday is Keskiviikko.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech. Although